Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of home ownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Lo-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. Licensed lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island Licensed Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Welcome to Sports Talk with R&J. I'm Steve Risser, along here with Justin D'Onofrio. We had a wild night in the NBA. You know, the Yankees and Red Sox, they continue to be, going up. They continue to be going up and down. But we got to start with what we woke up to this morning. And as we looked at the Cowboys, the big question for them after the draft was, do they have another guy? Do they have another guy opposite CeeDee Lamb? Do they have another pass catcher opposite CeeDee Lamb? And today they got that guy as they traded for George Pickens. They gave up a third-round pick this year and a fifth-round pick next year and traded for George Pickens. And he's really good at getting 50-50 balls. I think he's going to help this Cowboy team. I really do. I don't know how good the Cowboys are going to be this year. I don't know if they're going to be I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. And we'll pose that question a little bit later. But they're a better team they were today. They're a better team today than they were yesterday. I think this is a it's a move that, yes, it's pretty much a 1-year deal for them if they don't extend them. And this is going to help Dak Prescott. And this offense has potential to be really, really good. This Cowboy offense has potential to be good. I mean, they have two good receivers in CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Now the offensive line. We'll see what that does. I mean, with a lot of young players, Tyler Guyton, Tyler Booker, Tyler Smith's a pretty good player. Got Cooper Beebe too at center. And then you look at their running game. They went out and got Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and they drafted Alfred Blue. So Cowboy offense definitely has potential to be pretty good with this trade.
Yeah, they do. It's a solid pickup for Dallas. Pickens. Dak's gonna be the best quarterback that Pickens had thrown to him so far. In his career, and Pickens has showed some potential, and he's been really he's been good for Pittsburgh. I know one of the fallbacks with him is emotionally he can cost he's got a couple penalties called on him. And then there's been some even not even like on the field, but some other stuff around. But but I think it's a solid pickup for the Cowboys here. Yeah, they definitely need a number 2 wide receiver, and they got a good one. And he's got Pickens got 1 year left too on the deal, and he can if he could have a big year, maybe get Dallas to the playoffs. He can get a pretty good contract next year with Dallas or a different team.
Yeah, we'll get to the Steelers piece of this a little bit later, but we'll keep talking about the Cowboys piece of this. And you brought up the playoffs, and the question is, are the Cowboys a playoff team in the NFC with this move? Does it make them a playoff team? I'm going to say no, because I think the NFC is gotten deeper. Pretty deep. I mean, I think they're still the third best team in their division, behind the Commanders, behind the Eagles. I think they're still not as good as the Lions. I don't think they're as good as the Packers. I don't think they're as good as the Rams. So and then there's one team out of the South that's going to get in. So looking at the wild card teams, I think the Commanders are one of them. Again, they're going to be a wild card team. think either Green Bay or Minnesota. I think they're going to be one of the wild card teams, and so I'm looking at them in the NFC. I'm going to say no. I still don't think they're a playoff team because I think the run defense is an issue, and there's a lot of question marks. I think the offensive line is young. That's still a question, even though they've always historically drafted well on the offensive line. I think the offensive line's a question mark. The running game's a question mark, and the defense against the run is a question mark. And and again, Dax came off 2 injuries now. Is he going to be as mobile as he once was? So there still are a lot of question marks there. And let's not forget the biggest question mark, the head coach, who has no head coaching experience. This was a head coach that nobody wanted in the offseason. So there are still a lot of question marks. Would I be surprised if they snuck into the playoffs as a wild card? No. But even with this move, I think they'll be competing for a wild card spot, but I don't think they're a playoff team.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that this Dallas team's probably around like 7, 8 wins, maybe to get to 9, but I don't even know if 9's going to be enough to get a wild card spot. So yeah, there's you mentioned it. There's a lot of young now in the offensive line. How does that develop? Yeah, they were one of the worst rushing offense teams in the league last year. Yeah, that coming off the injury, so there are still a lot of question marks. I could see this Dallas team being right around there in December, fighting for a spot. But yeah, I just think there's probably a couple other teams that are ahead of them right now that will get the wild card spots instead of Dallas. So wouldn't be totally surprised here, but I think I agree with you. I just think that right now there's just too many question marks that we still just don't know yet about this Dallas team.
You're right. There are a lot of question marks, but one won't be the receiving core. And the question is do they now have the best duo in the league? Is CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens the best wide receiving duo in the league? I'm going to say no. I think it might be third. I'm still obviously going to go with. I think the one. I don't think any. I think the one in Cincinnati is clearly better than anyone else with Jamar Chase and T Higgins, and I think the one in their division is better with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's top 3, top 5, arguably top 3, but I'm going to say no. I don't think it is the best receiving duo in the league.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's right around top 3, top 4. Yeah, you got to Higgins and Jamar Chase are both number 1 guys, and even Smith and AJ Brown could be are both kind of number 1s as well. So I think Pickens and CeeDee Lamb are 2 really really good ones. I just think I'll take the duos in Cincinnati and Philadelphia ahead of CeeDee Lamb and Pickens right now.
Yeah, I agree. I would do say I would take those guys over. Yeah, I would take those 2 receiving those duos over George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. I would take those over those guys right now. But we will move on to the Steelers piece of this. And the thing about the Steelers right now is they look at their offense. They lost Najee Harris in the offseason. They just traded one of their best receivers in George Pickens, and then their offensive line is shaky. And the big question for them is, are they a playoff team? Are they a playoff team right now? And I'm going to say no. And I'm pretty confident of that. I think this could be their first losing season. Their offense is not good. Their offense is not good at all. I mean, their running game is now a question mark with Najee Harris leaving. Their offensive line's a question mark. The depth of their receiving core is a question mark. The quarterback, they probably downgraded there with me. We'll see. We'll get to where they'll be doing at quarterback. We'll get to that. But right now, looking at that offense, I'm going to say no. I don't think the Steelers are a playoff team. Like I said with the Cowboys, they got better. They're better today than they were yesterday. The Steelers, they're worse today than they were yesterday.
Yeah, I agree with you. They are, because outside DK Metcalf, there's nobody else that's really proved himself in the wide receiver core. I know they have Robert Woods too, but like he's 33. Like I can't, you're not gonna get a ton out of him next year. But like Calvin Austin's still kind of a younger guy. Hasn't really, I think he caught like 35, 36 balls last year. Roman Wilson's another younger guy as well. So they have some wide receivers that kind of have to prove themselves right now. And Pat Freiermuth's a solid tight end, but the running back situation not great. I like Caleb Johnson, the draft pick they got at Iowa. I think he'd be solid. He's kind of workhorse. Last year, but we'll kind of time will tell with him as a rookie next year. So yeah, and the quarterback situation isn't great. Like if Mason Rudolph's right now is your day one starter, isn't it's not great. Especially in a good division with Baltimore, and I know Cincinnati was up and down with their defense last year, but they still have Joe Burrow. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough hill to climb. And yeah, right now Pittsburgh definitely got worse at that.
They did it, but this also could potentially be addition by subtraction. You heard that I heard the story on Christmas Day. We only showed up 90 minutes before the game. He does have some attitude issues, so this could be addition by subtraction. Maybe he wasn't comfortable being the number 2 receiver, but let me tell you something. But he's definitely a better option than Calvin Austin as your number 2 receiver. But yeah, I mean, yes, there are attitude concerns. So I can see why this deal was made because of those, but on paper, you're just worse.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely are worse. Especially with a guy like Mason Rudolph, you got Fryermuth and you have Metcalf to throw the ball to, but there's not much else there for him. If you can't run the ball either, Mason Rudolph's not a great quarterback to drop back 50 times and have him throw it over the yard. That's not a great solution. So, and with the offensive line kind of, still with some question marks as well. Yeah, it's not great. And again, their defense is great, and TJ Watt's one of the best, in the league. But in 2025, it is tough to have your defense win you so many games. And I know Pittsburgh defense has done that over the years, but I think it's tougher now in 2025 to do that. And TJ Watt too has kind of had some injury concerns. I know their defense as a whole is really good, but it's just tough to always rely on your defense to have to win you football games, and that's kind of what it looks like they're going to have to do yet again in Pittsburgh this year.
Yeah, and now we talk about this year and we talk about their defense carrying them. But the one thing we haven't discussed is the quarterback that could potentially be on this team, and that's Aaron Rodgers. There's a really good chance that Aaron Rodgers could be on the team. And the question is, with them trading Pickens, does this affect them signing Aaron Rodgers? And I think no, because I think Aaron Rodgers knew about this already. I think he knew about this already. I think he's been in communication with the Steelers, and I think he knew about this already. And now, are they a Super Bowl contender or even a playoff team with Aaron Rodgers? I don't think so. But I do think Rodgers was aware of them, potentially trading George Pickens.
Yeah, I could see that. And at this point, Rodgers, it's like if he wants to play football next year, his only option right now is Pittsburgh. So I don't think this changes his mind at all. So yeah, I agree with you. I agree. Yeah, very possibly could have known, but I don't think this changed anything because Pittsburgh is his only option. So if he wants to play football next year, he's going to have to be in a Steelers uniform at this moment, unless he's waiting to August and a certain quarterback gets hurt and they go out and sign him. And I just, right now Pittsburgh's the only option he has.
Yeah, yeah. I 100% agree with you. 100% agree with you. That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, they both pretty much at this point need each other, and you could argue that that Rodgers needs the Steelers more than the Steelers. I mean, the Steelers need him too because Mason Rudolph would be the starter, but still, is this his only option at this point? Minnesota, the Giants have moved on. Minnesota pretty much is committed to having JJ McCarthy as their number one quarterback. So this is it. This is the only option for Aaron Rodgers. This is it. If he wants to play in 2025, this is it. And if he does play for the Steelers, I think again they're a 7-8 win. He wins more than 5 games because it's just a better organization than the Jets. But I think they're a 7-8 win team that misses the playoffs.
Yeah, I would agree. Even if they have them, like 7-8 win team. Gonna be tough to beat Baltimore and Cincy. I could see him split with Cincy. They probably get swept by Baltimore. So yeah, in the AFCs, you get Denver, the Chargers, obviously KC. You're gonna get one out of the South more than likely, and then Buffalo, probably either Miami or New England get in. So yeah, they're probably I'd say 7-8 wins, and I don't think this is a playoff team.
No, it's not. I think we could potentially have Mike Tomlin's first losing season. So with the offseason they've had, passing on Fedora Sanders, trading George Pickens and I had to give up a second round pick to get DK Metcalf. So, with the offseason they've had, I could see this being Pittsburgh's first losing season since 2003.
Yeah, it's very possible right now. Especially if they lose a couple guys on the defense throughout the year and their defense takes a couple hit, their defense is struggling to, maybe keep them in the games. And yeah, it could be because, Mason Rudolph's, not a guy either that you have a lot of confidence if you're trailing the game too to make plays and have, help you come back either. So yeah, it's looking like maybe it's a down year for Pittsburgh, which we haven't seen in quite some time.
Yeah, I mean the thing about the Steelers is they've kind of been since 2021. They've kind of been in no man's land. 9-8. 8-9, 8-9, pretty much 9-8, 10-7, losing in the first round of the playoffs. And at best, it's probably going to be more of the same. It's more of the same. So if you're the Steelers, that's why I was so surprised they passed on Shedeur Sanders, because if even though you don't know what kind of player he's going to be, but at least you have a guy that could be a guy that can make you get you back to being a top team like you were with Big Ben. Now what's the ceiling for the Steelers? 10 wins, 9 wins, and losing the first round of the playoffs. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, it is. And it being no man's land, is an issue, especially when you don't have a quarterback because you're not really finding it in the late teens, early 20s. So look, I don't see this team buying him out and getting a number one pick, but maybe if they're in the top 10, they find their franchise quarterback next year, like if things really go bad for him. But yeah, it's that's kind of the problem. We don't have your quarterback. It's tough to kind of be in that late teens, early 20s drafting because you're not going to find your franchise guy there. So yeah, Pittsburgh's been so good the last couple of decades here, but yeah, it's maybe you never want to go 5-12 or anything like that, of course, but maybe it's not the worst thing in the world. Maybe you do find maybe one of these quarterbacks next year in the draft and you can land them if you're picking close in the top 10.
Yeah, you did. That probably definitely is their best option. That could be the best thing that happens to them at the moment. But we'll see what ends up happening in Pittsburgh. Should be very interesting to see how this trade plays out. But we got to move on to the NBA. And before we get to the games last night, we got to get to the series between the Knicks and Celtics. And the Knicks shocked the Celtics on Monday night, going up 1-0. They were down by 20 points in the third quarter. And it was OG Anunoby and it was Jalen Brunson who stepped up big time. OG and Jalen Brunson stepped up big time. OG hit that. He had that big three. He had that and 1-2 in overtime. Bridges hit the big 3 too. Bridges came up big with that 3 and then had that steal. And the Knicks pulled off the huge upset of the Celtics. Celtics, a historically bad night from 3, 15 for 60 from 3-point range. And the Knicks pulled off the upset. And sticking with the Knicks, what do they got to do to go up 2-0? What do they got to do to go? They got a great opportunity tonight to go up 2-0 heading to Madison Square Garden. What do the Knicks have to do to go up 2-0? And I think the biggest thing is Cat's got to get back to being what he was in Game 3 and 4 of the Pistons series. He's got to get back to being that because he hasn't been as good. The Knicks have won because of the play, mainly because of the play of Brunson and Bridges stepping up in Detroit and OG stepping up in Boston, and then Bridges stepping up on defense at the end of the game. But Cat's got to be, if they're going to win this series, Cat's got to be really, really good. And feel like he's got to be really, really good tonight, or it will be 1-1 going back to Madison Square Garden on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. My keys for the next series, Brunson, the ball can't stick in his hands late in the game. I know he hit those huge big threes, but like after that, he was tired and he had the bad carry. He had another bad turnover. And it's turns into 4 guys sitting around and watching him. And that's when they really could have put the Celtics away there, but they couldn't because they had a couple really bad possessions. So the ball can't stick in Brunson's hands. They have to move the ball. And I know what you brought up with Cat. They got to find him and he's got to be a little bit more aggressive going to get the ball. My second one is continue to switch off the screens. I know in the first half they didn't. They did that in the second half more, but because the Celtics got whatever they wanted in that first half, they were looking whatever matchup that they wanted. They took advantage of. Then my third one is better 3-point perimeter defense. 45 of the 60 shots that the Celtics had from 3 were uncontested. The Celtics aren't going to shoot that bad the rest of the series. So you've got away with one. The Celtics are going to shoot the ball better tonight, probably the rest of the series. So you can't get away with that again because they will blitz you. They're going down, and it could get ugly quick.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head with the open threes that the Celtics were taking. But this is now good to get to my point of what the Celtics got to do to even the series. If those threes are not going, they got to take the ball to the basket, especially Jason Tatum. You're 6'9". Take the ball to the hoop. What are you doing just settling for threes? I know that's kind of the bread and butter of the Celtics shooting threes, but if they're not falling, you got to stop taking them. You got to stop taking them because that obviously was the biggest reason why the Knicks got back in the game. All their possessions were just chucking up threes instead of taking the ball to the basket. And I know the NBA is a 3-point league, but in the playoffs, you got to be smart about it if you're missing them. If it's not working, you can't just keep doing it. You got to make an adjustment. The Celtics didn't do that, and that was the biggest reason why they blew that lead. So one of my biggest points is one of my biggest things they got to do tonight if they want to even the series. If the three's not going, you can't just keep going to it. You got to take the ball to the basket. So that's one of my things. Number two, Brown and Tatum got to be better late in the game, especially Tatum. Tatum has got to be better late in the game. 4 points in the fourth quarter and overtime, and this was an issue last. People didn't talk about this. This was kind of an issue last year. Now he did other things well. I'll give him that. And Jaylen Brown bailed him out. You remember last year, game 1 against Indiana, he bailed him out. Game 2 and 3 in the finals, he bailed him out. Jaylen Brown bailed him out a lot late in games last year. Tatum has got to be better. He had 4 points combined in the fourth quarter and overtime. That cannot happen to your superstar player. Your superstar has got to take over games, or there's potential. There's a chance they can get upset if Tatum doesn't take over. So if the game's close, Tatum has got to take over late. He's got to do that. So for me, it's stop shooting the threes. And Tatum has got to take over late. If both those things do happen, I think the Celtics have a very, very, very good chance of winning the series, though.
Yeah, your first point there with them settling threes, I'm with you. You can't sell for 63s, and look, yeah, they're probably not going to shoot as poorly tonight as they did, but you got to find other ways to score, especially too because in the first half, especially when they were taking the basket, they were drawing fouls and they were getting the line and hitting their free throws too. So they kind of got away from that too. So yeah, like in the third, fourth quarter, and it felt like they were chucking them with still 10, 11 seconds, a guy in their face, and like they were just bad possession. So yeah, they can't settle for 63s again, especially when they're not falling. You got to be able to score out of the way. My second one was the transition game, missed the off of Nick shots. It felt like they had a couple opportunities, the other night, 3-on-2s, some 2-on-1s where they did get out of transition. They did have the kind of advantage. So especially too, like even if you don't get like a 3-on-2 or something, the Knicks have a couple of bad on-ball defenders. Make the Knicks kind of scramble. Like maybe there's an opportunity where Brunson's guarding Jason Tatum off of that, and he could kind of take in the basket, something like that. And when Porzingis is healthy, which possibly could be today, I think he's a mismatch nightmare for the Knicks defense because Towns isn't a great perimeter defender, and neither is Mitchell Robinson's not great. And obviously the free throw things are concerned where it's going to be tough to play him. Porzingis, I think in the one game he had against the Knicks this year, he had 34, and that was the one a couple weeks ago. Porzingis could be like the huge X factor in this one because I do think the Knicks, when he's healthy, are going to have a tough time guarding him.
You made a great point about Porzingis, and obviously he left the game at halftime due to an illness, and he didn't score any points. He only played 13 minutes in game 1. You made a great point about Porzingis, and this leads me to our next point: is does game 1 change what we think about this series? Does game 1 change what we think? It's tough for me as a Knicks fan, but I'm gonna say no. I'm going to say no because I knew the Knicks would win, some really close games in this series. But I'm still going to say Celtics in 6. I'm still going to say Celtics in 6. And you brought it up with Porzingis. You brought up Porzingis has been a mismatch nightmare for the Knicks. And if he's back healthy, he should have a big series. And I just think the Celtics still, even though the Knicks won game 1, I hate to say it, but I still think the Celtics are the better team. So game 1 did not change my prediction. I'm still going to say Celtics in 6 because I just think the Celtics are still the better team, and you can still argue that when the Celtics play their game, they're the best team in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think this thing wraps up in 6 with the Celtics. The Knicks only won by 3, and the Celtics shot 15 for 60. They didn't have Porzingis. Like the Knicks found a way to get it done where the Celtics kind of played the worst, and very possibly, like if the Knicks lost the other night, I'd probably say that at max like 5 games. So yeah, it doesn't really change it because the Celtics did not play great, and the Knicks found a way to steal, which is great. But even at their worst, the Knicks, they were down by 21 points. The Knicks, the Celtics kind of took their foot off the gas as well the other night, and they kind of cost them. So yeah, it doesn't really change much for me either. I still think that the Celtics probably win this thing in 6 games. And actually the final, I think the last 5 years now, the Celtics are 27-21 at home in the playoffs. So it's not like they're great at the home court advantage hasn't been huge for him either.
And that's a great point. That's a great point you just made about the Celtics not being great at home. And last year, let's go back to last year. They were not either. I mean, you look at it. They split with Miami for the first 2 games without Jimmy Butler. They split with Cleveland the first 2 games last year, and they very easily could have lost Game 1 against the Pacers in the conference finals. Now they were good in the NBA finals. They won those 2 games, but yeah, you're right about their home struggles. And remember the year before, you go back to 2023 when in the conference finals against the Heat, they lost the first 2 games. You go back to the series against Sixers. They lost 2 games. They lost 2 games in that series against Philly in the first round. So yeah. And you go back even back to that 2022 year, they lost 2 games in the NBA finals. Like they lost 2 games in the conference finals. The Celtics in this Jason Tatum era have just not been a great home team. So that's a great point there, and that probably, and that leads, and that's why I think both of us still think that the Celtics are going to win the series. And also another thing is the Knicks were not great at home in the first round against the Pistons either. So that's another point why I know the Knicks won Game 1, but to me it still doesn't change. It's still, I think to both of us it doesn't change. It doesn't change anything. Now, if the Knicks win tonight, it definitely could change things because they're up 2-0 going back home, and they'd be halfway to getting to the conference finals. But right now it really doesn't change anything right now. But with them, because you see other teams, we'll get to them. A lot of teams are losing the first game of their series. So yeah, it was a big win for the Knicks, but there's still work to do.
Yeah, absolutely there is. There is, and I think too you have to feel good that I know we talked about Thibodeau last week and the kind of struggles. He coached circles around Missoula tonight, and I'm not like a huge Missoula fan. I think he's very stubborn, and but that's another thing too, where the Knicks do have a little bit of advantage as well in the coaching edge in the series. So, but yeah, the Celtics kind of, and yeah, because you mentioned the Knicks home struggles too. Like the Knicks haven't. Like, you can go back all for a while now. The Knicks have lost big home games too in series. So like, yeah, you mentioned it. Knicks haven't at times found a way to get it done at home either in the playoffs. So yeah, I think you got to feel good. The Knicks got one here in Boston. You have to feel good going back about New York, but yeah, you got to play better. The Knicks got to play better at home here. And again, yeah, maybe you win tonight, but you go up 2-0. But that's really, I think, going to wake up the Celtics. So yeah, the Celtics team's really good when they keep the kind of the foot on the gas.
Exactly. And let's be honest, out of all the teams that are losing their series, I still think the Celtics have the best chance of winning it. I think of all the teams that are losing right now, I do think the Celtics still have the best chance of getting to the conference finals. But we'll stay in the Eastern Conference, and you, as a Kings fan, you miss Tyrese Halliburton because he stepped up again last night. As talk about a team in the East that's in trouble. Pacers go up 2-0 on the Cavs. It looked like 119 to 112. The Cavs had that game won, but then Pacers score. Donovan Mitchell offensive foul. Pacers score again, and then turnover from Max Strus. They foul Halliburton. He makes the first, misses the second, and then they get the rebound. Halliburton step back to win the game for the Indiana Pacers. What a game that was last night, and the Pacers do it again. Down 7 with under a minute to go and win a game. This team is kind of feeling like a little bit of a team of destiny. But the one thing I think we are starting to realize is Tyrese Halliburton is he's a top 15. This pro season is proving that he's a top 15 player in the league. And let's be honest, he is definitely better than Domantas Sabonis. The Pacers have definitely got the better of that trade. I think this postseason has definitely taught us that.
Yeah, it has. As a King fan, the worst nightmare now is a Pacers Spurs NBA Finals with Fox on the Spurs now in the next 3 to 5 years. That's going to be the cherry on top here for Kings fans. So yeah, he's got that the playoff kind of. I know a couple weeks ago we talked about it. He hasn't hit that big shot yet in the playoffs, but he's done it twice now in the last week. So yeah, that kind of now is got that monkey off his back. So yeah, it's frustrating because they've won that, and it kind of sinks us, 5 Halliburton backcourt what it could have done here, but of course the Kings mess it up like they do everything.
Yeah, unfortunately for you, they do. The Kings always do mess it up, unfortunately for you. But now moving on to the Cavs piece of this, they are down 0-2. Who would have thought after winning 64 games they would be down 2 games to none? And the big question for them is, what do they got to do to get back into the series? And you would think if with them being down 0-2, we'd be saying, oh, Mitchell's got to play like a top player in the league. But he has. He had 33 in game one. He had 48 last night. He pretty much is doing everything he has to do. The big thing is they got to be healthy. I think Darius Garland's got to give it a shot. He's got to give it a shot. You got Garland, you got Mobley and Hunter out. Those are some big injuries for the Cavaliers right there. So number one, they got to be healthy. Because if they're not healthy, they're not going to win this series.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be tough, and Garland with the sprained toe, he's already missed 3 games. Like, yeah, at some point you got to give it a go because you can't have Ty Jerome out there shooting 1 for 14, and Dean Wade is the guy that averages 5 points a game. He's in your starting lineup in the conference semifinals. Like, it's pretty tough to win. And Mobley, the defensive, he won defense player of the year. And then Jared Allen too deserves a lot of credit. He played really well too last night. But yeah, they're just down. They're down 3 guys right now, and it's just a Pacers team that's young, and they just have a ton of firepower with their 5-man offense. So, or their 5-out offense. So, yeah, right now for the Cavs, that's kind of been huge, and they got to learn how to win down the stretch. Still, the turnovers last night, they allowed Indiana to have some second chance opportunities. It's a team right now that just doesn't know the struggles right now to close out in big moments like that.
Yeah, they didn't close. They sure didn't close out last night. And another thing is too, I feel like Strus and Allen, they had good games last night, but they got to be more. They got to be consistent, especially if they're going to have all these. If they're going to have, if Garland's going to miss time, if Mobley's going to miss time, those guys got to be consistent because if they're not, there's no way. There's no way they're going to win. Donovan Mitchell could do all he can do. Could do everything he can, but right now with everyone out, the Pacers have the better team. Let's be honest, the Pacers are the better. Now I think Mitchell's better than Halliburton. Halliburton played really well in the postseason, but the Pacers with those guys out are the better team.
Yeah, they absolutely are right now, and I know game 4 they have an extra day because they don't play it a Sunday, which maybe helps a little bit. I know they will be out there tomorrow, but Sunday they do get an extra day before game 4, which maybe helps. But yeah, they gotta get healthy, and yeah, the Pacers right now, they're just you got Siakam, you got Bennett Mathen, who had a good game as well. So yeah, they're just so much firepower for Indiana, and they just can't kind of match up right now. And even Aaron Naismith, he had 23 last night. He's had a really good postseason as well. So yeah, Indiana just has so much firepower. And Cleveland defense has been good most of the year, but it's just been too much right now with the guys that they have out. And Donovan Mitchell left it all on the floor last night, and there wasn't much else he can kind of do down the stretch there.
Absolutely. Now going to Indiana, what do they got to do to put this series away? And Halliburton has just got to continue to be how great he is. I mean, he's been really good. You got to give him this overrated thing. This just shows you that I don't get what these players were talking about. I really don't. But the thing is was this a motivation thing for Halliburton? I never thought he was the most overrated. I think that was kind of ridiculous. But he's definitely proving why. And as we said earlier, he's proven why he's a top 15 player. I mean, he's really stepped up big time in this postseason.
Yeah, he has. He absolutely has, and I do think there's a little bit to him if he wants to kind of prove it. I know after the King trade, I know he really wanted to stick to them. He's done it a couple times, and I know here he probably wants to kind of stick it because because he's a phenomenal passer too, and again his 3-point numbers have gotten better. Because he came in the league and he was okay at it. And he's really kind of elevated that game, and it's really given another kind of dimension to it. So, and again, at his size too, at 6'5", 6'6", as a point guard, or his ability to the basket as well. So, yeah, I never really got the overrated part of why other guys in the NBA kind of thought that, but yeah, he really seems like he's kind of had that chip on his shoulder so far in this postseason. He's come up big for him late in games.
It has, and also I think they get contributions from these hard the way they have. I think they win this. I think they get back to the conference finals. I think they do if they keep getting contributions from those guys.
Yeah, they absolutely will. Siakam, Miles Turner hit a couple threes last night, and you got Halliburton again is going to continue to play well. Andrew Nembhard's he's been okay as well, and if Mathurin's going to get you 19 points off the bench and. They didn't get much from McConnell last night, but he's kind of shown ability too to kind of step up in the postseason as well. So even if they get him going, it's tough. They're just the Pacers have a ton of firepower and offense, and it's when they're hitting shots and when they can get out and running, playing transition. They're such a tough offense to slow down.
They definitely are. And looking at this series right now, the big question is: are they going back to the conference finals? I think they are. I think they win it in 6. I think Mitchell carries the Cavs through a couple games, but the Cavs being banged up, blowing the game last night, I think the Pacers do it. I think we're seeing a different Tyrese Halliburton in this season. I think we are, with him stepping up late in games. And I got the Pacers in 6 here. I got the Pacers returning to the conference finals in 6. Justin, do the Cavs come back, or do the Pacers back to the conference finals?
Yeah, with all the question marks right now with the Cavs with their injuries, I'm with you. I think Cleveland gets a split here in Indiana. Cleveland wins Game 5, but I think the Pacers close out in Game 6. I think they're the better team right now. With the guys that they have, with all the Cleveland injuries right now, and I think there's just too much firepower right now. And again, Donovan Mitchell, Drew straight on played well, but I just think right now there's too much firepower that Cleveland just doesn't have the answers for right now with their injuries. So I do think the Pacers get to the Eastern Conference Finals, yet again this year.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see what happens between those two teams. And speaking of injuries, last night, Steph Curry, when the Warriors were up 10 in the second quarter, and Steph Curry left the game with a hamstring injury, and now he is out of Game 2. And the real question is going into this. The big question is, with this series is, say Steph has to miss a bunch of time, maybe miss the whole series. Can the Warriors win this series if Steph is out? And I know they won last night, but I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no because if you look at it, Anthony Edwards, he had a bad first half, but I just don't feel like he's going to have a lot of those halves in the series. I think Chris Finch is going to hold him accountable. You heard him call him out after the game last night. He's going to hold him accountable. I think he's going to be better. I think because if you look at the rosters between the two teams, you look at the T-Wolves roster and the Warriors roster. I think I know the Warriors definitely have the better coach, but I think the T-Wolves roster is better if Steph Curry is out. So and the T-Wolves are clearly the best player on the floor. I know Jimmy Butler's been big for the Warriors, but right now Anthony Edwards is a better player than Jimmy Butler. So I think if Steph is out, I respect the Warriors, but I don't think they win this series if Steph Curry is out.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. One of my Timberwolves points, because I wasn't sure yet, Curry's in playing Game 2 or not, but Curry this year against the Timberwolves, where the T-Wolves were 1-3 against them, he averaged 30 points and 9 assists a game, and he was pretty efficient shooting wise in all of them. So like he's done some damage against this Timberwolves team this year, and they've kind of struggled to guard him. So yeah, I think it's going to be difficult without him because I know Buddy's shooting like 46% from 3. I don't think that's going to continue. And presents Brandon P, he had a rough night. Like I just don't think the Warriors have enough outside. And I know that zone gave the Timberwolves a lot of problems, but if they can kind of solve it, and I think they're going to struggle. They just don't have the depth inside either. So there's just not a ton without Curry. You got Jimmy Butler too still, but outside of Butler, right now you can depend on Buddy. There's not a ton of guys that you can kind of count on. I know Draymond Green actually had a pretty good game shooting. So yeah, I think the Timberwolves are going to have more firepower, and I just don't think they're going to shoot 5 for 29 again, whatever they did last night.
Exactly. They've really struggled to shoot from 3-point range. But we'll stick with the Warriors and what the Warriors got to do to go up 2-0. And for me, Hield's got to continue to be great. He was great in Game 7. He was great last night. He's got to be great, especially if Steph's out. They need another guy because Jimmy Butler's going to be the guy. They need that second guy. So Hield's got to continue to be great because he's seemed to be that guy, that second, third guy now for the Warriors. And then Jimmy Butler's got to continue to be playoff Jimmy. He's got to keep being playoff Jimmy. He had 20 points last night. He's got to continue to be playoff Jimmy. So those are my two things for the Warriors if they want to go up 2-0.
Yeah, mine in this one, for the Warriors, Draymond cannot get into his antics and in this series. I know because he's had issues with Rudy Gobert in the past, and I know Anthony Edwards likes to talk and he can't, because like they need Draymond on the court. I know he shot the ball well, but like the Warriors just don't have a ton of size. And if, Gobert, McDaniels, Reed, Randall, like those guys can feast inside. If Draymond gets, a technical or two, gets thrown out of game, or maybe even gets suspended at some point. Like they need Draymond on the floor. Number 2 for me is they got to contain Anthony Edwards. They did a good job last night in the first half. They got, you can't get them on. You got to make them uncomfortable out there. Gary Payton's a pretty good on-ball defender. If Anthony Edwards gets going, especially without Curry, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. And then number 3 for me is kind of stick with that zone defense, because that gave the Timberwolves a lot of problems last night. They only shot 18% from 3, and they caused 16 turnovers. So, those are kind of my 3 there for the Warriors. Continue the defense there with the zone.
Yeah, those are some really good points there. Now we'll move on to the Timberwolves and what do they got to do to even the series? And first and foremost, Ant's got to start the game a lot better. He's got, just like Chris Finch called him out last night, rightfully so. He's got to start the game better. He's got to start the game better for them to win. Number 2, pretty obvious, got to shoot the 3. And they need McDaniels and Gobert to step up like they did. Like McDaniels was big in the Lakers series. He was really big in the Lakers series, and Gobert was big in Game 5 against the Lakers. They need one of those 2 guys to step up as well. Because Randall was pretty good last night, but they need one of those 2 guys to step up as well. For me, those are the things that have to happen for the Timberwolves to even the series. Justin, what are the Timberwolves got to do to even the series?
Yeah, for me, they got to be better on the defensive glass. They allowed 18 offensive rebounds last night, and that led to 13 second chance points for Golden State. And I know Randall kind of said he played 30 minutes last night and he only got 3 rebounds. That's unacceptable. So I expect them to. I know the Warriors are pretty good on the glass. Timberwolves have been as well, but you're the bigger team than Golden State. You got to do a better job on the glass than that. And my other one too is solving the Warriors zone, move the ball around. You got the advantage inside. You got to find ways to get it, the free throw line, the elbow area, try and then kind of kick outs. You got to try to find ways to kind of solve the zone. And when you do, that's going to give you the inside game if the Warriors switch the man-to-man. And that's the inside game where Gobert, Randall, Reed, McDaniels are going to be able to score easy baskets around the rim.
Yeah, they definitely will. They definitely will. So Timberwolves definitely have to attack the zone. But now for the series, with the Timberwolves trailing 0-1, do they just like the Pacers? Do they get back to the conference finals? And I'm going to say yes. I think the biggest reason, the obvious reason, there's a good chance Steph Curry could miss time in the series. And right now, with the potential of Steph Curry missing time, even though the Timberwolves lost last night, I'm going to go with Timberwolves in 7. I'm going to go with Timberwolves in 7 because there could be a chance for the majority of the series. They have the best player on the floor in Anthony Edwards. So I do have them returning to the conference finals. I got T-Wolves in 7 in this series.
I'm going to go Timberwolves in 6 here. I know they had 1 sink or 2 in that Lakers series, but the other games they played pretty well in. I think that was kind of their stinker last night. They obviously didn't play well. They did come out, shoot the ball better. They get game 2, and without Curry, I think Golden State gets 1 when they're back at home. But I think the Timberwolves find a way to win this series in 6 games.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Steph Curry. He could be out for this entire series. He might be out 1 game. We'll see what happens. That's going to be huge. That's going to be huge if the Warriors want to. That's going to be huge. I think the Warriors are going to need him if they want to get to the conference finals. So now the final series, second round series, the Nuggets and Thunder. How about the Nuggets on Monday night? Another wild game, down by 13 late in the fourth quarter, coming back and winning. Aaron Gordon in this postseason, he stepped up for him, hit the big 3 to give them the lead. Jokic was phenomenal, 42 and 22, proving why he is head and shoulders above anybody in the NBA. He's head and shoulders the best player in the league. I know SGA is going to win the MVP because of voter fatigue, but it's another year where Jokic probably should have won another MVP, he's just showing you how good he is with his performance last night. And but we'll get to the Thunder, who are down 0-1, team that won 68 games, down 0-1. And what do they have to do to even this series? What are they going to do to even this series tonight? And the big thing is Williams and Holmgren got to step up. I don't think either had great games. I think Holmgren at 12, Williams at 16. Those guys got to step up. That was a big reason why they collapsed. SGA was great. The supporting cast, this was the problem last year against the Mavericks. The supporting cast step up for the Thunder for them to even the series. To me, that's what's happening. And they got to contain Jokic. It's a great player. You can't let him get 40 on the road, especially at home. You're at home. You can't let the star. I know Nikola Jokic is phenomenal, but you can't let him dominate you in at 42 and 22. They got to find a way to contain Nikola Jokic. So those two, to me, if those 2 things happen, I think there's a good chance the Thunder even the series.
Yeah, for me, I with your point there, I agree with you. They need that consistent number 2, and that has to be Holmgren or Jalen Williams. He's 5 for 20 the other day from the field. But he's got to shoot the ball better than that for this Oklahoma City Thunder team to win. I know Alex Caruso had a pretty good game, but really can't count on him to give you 20 points every night in this series. My second one is let Jokic get his points and try to take away everybody else. Try to take away Jamal Murray.
Ooh, so you're saying
You know,
let Jokic score? I disagree there. I'm not. I don't think they should let Jokic score. I think they have to let one of those other guys beat him. To be honest.
Yeah, I'm okay. I think if Jokic puts a 50, but like if you can kind of contain Jamal Murray and kind of keep him to 15, kind of keep an eye on Aaron Gordon, kind of keep him under, 10, 15 points. Westbrook's had a pretty good playoff too. At some point, he's gonna have that game. Porter's kind of been a mess this postseason. So I'm okay if you want to just guard Jokic 1-on-1, let him get his 50 and make sure the Murrays of the world, those other guys don't beat you. And I think OKC could be okay if they let that happen. Um, my last one is kind of they gotta be better in the clutch too. Chet late in late, that final was that he's gotta get the ball to SGA there late, and then they fouled up early there. They fouled too early in that situation. The Nuggets kind of helped the Nuggets there kind of come back, and they blew a 9-point lead with like 3 minutes left at home. So they gotta be better in the clutch as well.
Yeah, you're right about that. Being better in the clutch, blowing that hugely late. But now we'll move over to the Nuggets, the team that won Game 1. And what do they got to do to go up 2-0? Jokic's got to continue to be great. Jokic's got to continue to be great. He's been great all postseason. He was great in Game 1. He's got to continue to be great and also get contributions from other guys. You saw Jamal Murray in Game 5, in the first round, put up over 40 points. You saw Aaron Gordon. You're continually seeing Aaron Gordon making the big, had the dunk against the Clippers in Game 4 of that series, and then hit the big three against the Thunder. So you continue to see the supporting cast step up. If those guys keep stepping up, I wouldn't be shocked if the Thunder pull this up. If the Nuggets pull this upset. Who would have thought it after Michael Malone got fired?
Yeah, absolutely. Their championship moxie just kind of showed up so far in this postseason. So yeah, I kind of thought the Clippers were gonna knock them off. Believing in James Harden in Game 7 was, I blame myself only there. That was
absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I should have known. But yeah, their championship moxie, find Malone. Didn't think it was a great move, but it's worked off for him. It's worked so far. So far in this postseason, my kind of for the Nuggets here is, Michael Porter Jr. has got to make an impact. I don't think they could keep getting away if he can only score you 2 points. And I know the plus minus isn't the be all end all in it, but he was minus 15, and I think that was like the worst for a starter that in their starting lineup. So they have to get more of an impact from him. My other one was just too many turnovers in Game 1. They had 18 of them that led to Oklahoma City, 23 points, and then my final one is get out and run. The Nuggets led the league with 20 fast break points per game. I know Jokic likes to run. Murray, Westbrook, get out on the run because the Oklahoma City defense is pretty good and try to get some easy baskets out in transition. Knock down some threes. So those are kind of my couple there for the Nuggets to try to go up 2-0.
Yeah, and listen, you talk about the championship moxie. It definitely played a factor. Definitely played a great point because that definitely played a factor in Game 1. It definitely did. And this Thunder team, as good as they've been in the regular season, technically they've been the number 1 seed. They have not even been to a conference final with SGA. This Nuggets team, they've won let's not forget, they've won a championship. Now, looking at this series, does the team with championship moxie pull the upset, or does the best team in the NBA throughout the regular season win this series? It's hard for me, but I'm going to go with the best team in the league by a little bit. I think it's going to be Thunder in 7. I'm going Thunder in 7 here. I got the Thunder beating the Nuggets in 7 games. I think the championship moxie is going to help, but I just think the Thunder are a little bit better. So that's why I got Thunder in 7 here.
Yeah. I've been going back and forth. I'm going to take the Nuggets to win this thing.
Go Nuggets. 6. I can see it. I can see it happening. With the way Jokic has played, I can see it happening. And with their championship experience, I can see it happening.
Yeah. And you bring that point to championship experience. Like on OKC, they don't really have that. It's a lot of really good young guys, but like Chet Holmgren hasn't won a big game yet. Alex Caruso. I know Caruso won a postseason. I know he won a championship with the Lakers, but like that's all you kind of have. And I think with this Nuggets team, I think there's a lot of pressure on OKC this year, and I think with Jokic, with Aaron Gordon, the way he's kind of stepped up. Christian Brown's had a pretty solid postseason, and I know it's always tough to count Westbrook, but he's played well majority of this postseason. He's
Yes,
really
definitely
kind of
has. Definitely
really
been. He's
trying to
definitely
prove
been. He's
himself.
been really good off the bench for them. Yes, I'll give you that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I like the way this Nuggets team's been playing so far, and I just think this OKC team, I think they need like another veteran or two to really get over the hump right now. So I'm gonna take the Nuggets to win this thing in 6 games.
Yeah, I could see it. I definitely could see the Nuggets winning in 6. Should be very interesting to see what happens with this. It's been a really great NBA playoff. When you get the road team winning these early season games, it's been a fun. We had 2 game 7s. It's been a great NBA postseason so far. It really, really, really has. For the regular season not being that eventful, this has been a great postseason so far in the NBA. But we got to wrap up doing our weekly check-in on the Yankees and Red Sox, and I think everyone knows where I'm going to start with the Yankees, and that is with this. It started out being the closer, at the beginning of the year. Then now he's became the setup man, and he can't do either job. He obviously couldn't do he couldn't close out games because he blew 2 games the Yankees should have definitely won. And then you thought they're in total control of the game on Monday night against the Padres, complete control. And guess what happens? Devin Williams walks 2 batters, bases loaded. Luke Weaver comes in, double by Machado. Base hit by Xander Bogaerts. Yankees blow another one. They lose, 4-3. And imagine we won those 3 games that we blew. We'd be like 5.5 games up in the East. We'd be in total control of the AL East. They're not because of their bullpen and mainly Devin Williams.
Yeah, you mentioned the loss. They have the most losses this year when being ahead in the 8th inning or in the 8th or 9th inning, they have 5 losses already this year. So yeah,
Wow.
When you take those 5 games, yeah, you're feeling a lot better about the team right now. And yeah, Williams again, he started with the walk with Tyler Wade, old friend Tyler Wade. Like you can't walk that guy. That guy,
No.
we've seen for years he can't hit.
Yeah. No,
Like,
exactly.
yeah, and I know last year he was kind of didn't play a full season to Devin Williams, but he's already given up more runs or more earned runs this year than he did all of like the 2023 year. That was 10 runs. So it's not been great. I don't, there's something wrong there, and you gotta. I think at this point you just have to throw him out there in a couple spots and just like mop up duties, or you're up by 5-6 runs, and you kind of let him work through some things right now because yeah, he's struggling. I give him credit. He was sitting up there on the railing watching, kind of he did watch Luke Weaver try to finish it off. Obviously, they kind of blew it there, and I will give him credit for that. He didn't leave and go down to the clubhouse. So you see the frustration on his face right now. You hope they correct it, but yeah, it's a big issue right now.
Major issue. So they gave up Nestor Cortez for it. It's a major issue.
And the dude they thought the guy Caleb Durant too. He's been okay for Milwaukee. That's who I think they would have had probably start second base or third going in this year. But he's been all right. Yeah. But yeah, Cortez.
They made this move to beef up the bullpen, and it really hasn't worked out. It really hasn't. I don't think there's any way you could put him in the closer role. You have to keep Weaver in the closer role, but you even saw the other day with Leiter, as we talked about, leads they blew. You almost forget about Leiter gave up a lead on Saturday. Yeah, as you said, 5 games the Yankees have had the lead in the 8th inning or longer, and they haven't been able to close those games out. So that's just been a big issue for the Yankees. Now, one of the things that has not been an issue for the Yankees is Max Fried. He has been a phenomenal pickup. Guy's like 6-0 with like an ERA under almost
1.01, I think. It's
1.01
right now.
What a pickup! What a pickup that was, and I think that is the move that has saved this team so far.
Yeah, it has. Because their starter depth has been great. Rodon had another brilliant outing on Monday night, but other than that, you got Will Warren has not been great. Clark Schmidt last night looked better. He's still working his way back, and now your 5th man rotation is probably Ryan Yarbrough, who he doesn't throw hard, so if he makes a mistake, it's getting hit. It's getting, he's got to be perfect. So, yeah, he's given them depth too, or length, I mean, and it's helped out the bullpen a bit. But yeah, he's been an awesome pickup, and the strikeout numbers aren't like crazy. It just teams are hitting him, but they're not hitting him hard. They're not barreling him up. So that's been huge, and its ground ball rate has been really, really good, which is what you need at pitching at Yankee Stadium too. So yeah, he's been awesome. It's been a great signing there for Cashman and the Yankees so far. He's been awesome filling that ace role this year.
Yeah, and you talk about the depth in the rotation. That depth, Big Schmidt has been better. Rondon, I mean, he had a really good out. He's been really good, but of course, it gets wasted by the bullpen on a Monday night. And then Clark Schmidt has been better. Has been pretty good so far since he came back. But another thing that the Yankees should not be concerned about is the offense. 10 runs in the 7th inning last night. This offense is, and we'll talk about it next week with the obviously with them playing Soto in the Mets, but this team doesn't really miss Juan Soto that much. Let's be honest. This offense has still been really, really good.
It has. I still worry about the bottom of the lineup a little bit. Like Sunday, you had JC or Cure or whatever batting 6th. Like that, the bottom of the lineup's a little bit concerning for me too right now. Because like Peraza's been all right. Like you totally haven't gotten it from Dominguez yet. Like, I know Wells hit the big bomb. Like hopefully Wells now he's up to 220. Hopefully he kind of starts to get in the groove now.
Yeah, but look at the guys who stepped up. Goldschmidt, did you think Goldschmidt would be this good?
Well, Goldschmidt's been unbelievable.
Yeah, did you think that Ben Rice would be this good? Aaron Judge obviously been phenomenal. You look at the guys that have stepped up in this lineup. Even I know Chisholm has a lot of it's in for high average, but still he's been pretty good. So has Volpe. So did you expect that to happen? Probably not. You probably expected the offense to be a little bit down. They're second in runs scored. I think the offense is fine.
Yeah, I just the bottom's a little bit concerning to me, but yes, the top like Goldschmidt, I'm not worried about. Judge, Rice has been good, and I don't think this is like Rice last year where he had a really good 3 weeks and then kind of fell off into that. I do think this is different this time. So yeah, I just the little bit at the bottom, a little concerned, but other than that, yeah, the offense is okay, and it helps that you're playing in one of the worst divisions in baseball, which I don't think either of us thought was going to happen a month into the season. So that does also help.
You're right about that. And speaking about one of the teams that is in one of the worst divisions of baseball, and that's the Boston Red Sox. And this week, the big takeaway from the Red Sox, their bullpen, their bridge to get to Aroldis Chapman is non-existent. Their bullpen was horrible this week. Last Wednesday, they blow a 6-0 lead, lose to the Blue Jays 7-6. The next day, they got a 2-run lead in the 8th. They blow that game. They lose 4-2. And then on Sunday, they got a 3-1 lead in the 7th, lose that game. These aren't even that good of teams. These are the Twins and the Blue Jays, and they can't hold the lead. This bridge to Aroldis Chapman they need the number one need of the Red Sox is going to be get an arm in the bullpen, because the bullpen is clearly a concern, especially the Slayton guy, who is absolutely terrible. Let's be honest. He's awful.
Yeah, Slayton's been he pitched well last year for him, but yeah, he's had a rough week here. And then Whitlock too is the other one that's kind of showed. He's been really good that first inning in and out of the bullpen. It's been the second inning. So I wonder now if they make that adjustment of just having him be a 1-inning guy, because he came up as a starter and could give you multiple innings, but maybe now he's kind of at the point of just being a 1-inning guy, and that's kind of what you have to deal with. So yeah, so Slayton's been the other one. Whitlock's kind of been another issue, and Liam Hendricks that's coming back has been pretty good. Like the rest of the bullpen's been pretty good. It's been mostly, I think, those two guys that have kind of been the struggle there, so they can figure them out. They'll be okay, but yeah, it's been Slade and Whitlock, the two guys, and those are kind of the two guys that are mainly their set of guys. So yeah, getting that to Chapman there has definitely been an issue. So you wonder if Core makes adjust that a little bit.
And then the big news with the Red Sox this week, Christian Casas out for the season. And how big of a loss is this? I know he's struggled at the plate, but how big of a loss is this going to be for the Red Sox? I do think it's a loss, because I think he's a decent bat in that lineup. But let's be honest, it's not like you're losing Devers or Bregman in that lineup. I still think the Red Sox lineup will be pretty good even without Casas.
Yeah, Casas, he struggled this year, so far. I know last year he missed a lot of time. You're not putting your best lineup out there daily if you're not going to have Devers try to play first base.
I heard he refused to play first base.
Oh, he did. I didn't. Okay, I know Cora said they didn't want to move him there, and I think even what's his face. So I didn't know so Devers refused it. I did not know that.
I read somewhere that he refused, but still, I think as you said, the best lineup is probably put him at first base. To be honest.
Yeah, because I know Yoshida just suffered a setback yesterday, so now I think it's probably been another month or so. Because then you DH Yoshida, you have Devers play first, and that's your best lineup. So I know like Roman Anthony, Marcel Amon, they're two top prospects. It doesn't sound like they're going to take any first base reps. So you really have like Abraham Toro. I think Romy Gonzalez could play first, but like I don't think you want him every day. So yeah, so like right now, yeah, their lines gonna be okay, but you're not putting your best lineup out there without putting Devers over that first base. So, but if he's refusing it, that's not great either. But I'm surprised a little bit. But Core too, I know him and Core, so maybe Core at some point convinces him to move over. But if he doesn't want to play there, he doesn't want to play it. But yeah, so they'll be okay. But yeah, it's not your best lineup out there daily if Devers is not first.
Nope, not at all, not at all, not at all. But that's going to wrap it up this week on Sports Talk with R&J. For Justin D'Onofrio, I'm Steve Risser. We will be back. We will be back next week talking about the NBA playoffs, any NFL news that comes our way, and Soto's return to the Bronx. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group. And here at CMG, we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men. And great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting clovercrestmedia.com.